he is going to be talking. Sentry is a SaaS app that you can use to track your errors and do error reporting. And then so Mark is going to talk to us about what is error reporting, monitoring, those sorts of things. And then there's going to be a pretty sweet demo that I've heard all about. And it's going to be great. So without further ado, if Mark and Annette will start.
If I can figure out how to computer.
There it is.
There we go.
All right. Thank you very much. Let's get going.
All right. This is going to be microscope. Oh, look at that. That's for later, though. After slides. Sure, we'll do it without the notes. Yeah, so thank you for coming. I have to apologize. I intended to have stickers, and I called my coworkers in San Francisco. Sentry is based out of San Francisco, and I work remotely from Toronto. I asked them to send me some stickers, and then Canada Post gave me a little fist punch in the throat. They're probably in one of the 500 trucks full of packages. So if and when they ever come, I'll send them up to Colin, and then you guys can enjoy them. You folks can enjoy them. Yeah, I'm going to be talking about error tracking. Sentry. So I work during the day at Sentry. I also do a lot of open source work in PHP. I maintain Cake PHP. Have for about 10 years now. I also run a side project. I run like a code lending service called Stickler CI. It's free for open source projects, and then I charge $15 a month to cover my server costs for private repos. So I do that in the evenings as a way to like buy magic cards. That's pretty much where all the money goes. Is pay for stuff for my kids and buy magic cards. And I used to work with Colin at FreshBooks a few years back. All right, so we're not going to get emoji. That's fine. Okay, so you just so what is error tracking? And I'll kind of walk you through like what the purpose of error tracking is and why you might consider using it. You don't have to use Sentry. There's a bunch of other services that do it. One of the nice things that we'll get into later about Sentry is that it's an open source project. So if you want to run it yourself, go right ahead. Yeah, so you just deployed some code. What next? Do you know it works? How do you know it works? You probably wrote some tests. You probably did some manual QA. Well, at least we're going to assume you did, because that's what good developers do. And so your code should work, but more importantly, like, so this is a thinking phase, because people will screw me over. So it's a thinking phase. Like, how do you know it works? Like, you wrote tests, and then you just assume it works, right? Like, it should be working. And then someone comes and asks you, like, what is going on? How do you know it isn't working is probably the more important piece. And so that is the harder question. So someone may ask you like, oh, someone reported a bug. Is this thing working? You're like, well, the test passed. Which doesn't really help the person on the other end of the internet who can't do whatever they're trying to do, can't buy something, or can't fill out a login form, or can't submit an API request, or is trying to sign up. And so, like, how do you know it isn't working? And so you start to think again, like, how do I know? Well, how do I find out if it's not working? I know I could go to the site and look at it in my browser. It works for me. It must be you that's broken. But there's a lot of other
user error. Next ticket.
User error. Next problem. Next ticket. Next issue. Oh, user error. Same problem. So you could go to the site. Maybe you get a white screen. That's a fun one to get. The lovely PHP white screen, or you get nothing because the server died and turned off. That's a good one too. So a lot of times there's a bunch of tools you can use. There's if you have lots of money, you can pay for New Relic. We all know New Relic is infinity dollars, where infinity is 100 times the server you have times a month. And then if you want to buy insights, that's the sweet stuff. I have many sad stories about New Relic pricing. You could rely on support tickets. Maybe you run a Twitter account and people will just yell at you on the internet. Maybe you have paying customers and they'll send you support tickets, or they'll call in to customer support. And customer support will say things like, the site is down. You'll be like, no, it's not. You can look at the front page, like what part of it is down. And they'll say, the thing. I have to talk to the customer. You have to email them back, and they'll say, when I do this, if I'm logged in as this user and I try and add something to my cart, then I get a white screen. And you say, okay, well, that's a lot more useful. and then maybe you put logging in place. That'd be really cool. Maybe you thought ahead and put logging in. Or maybe you put metrics and you send them off to Datadog or Graph, what's that? Not GraphQL. Anyways. Graphite, that's the one. You send them off to Graphite and you can see certain amount of data from logging, certain amount of data from metrics, and you can come to the conclusion that everything is on fire. And maybe you can just use thoughts and prayers and divine the answer. From looking at the white screen, you're like, oh, I know what I did. I just broke that. And maybe you found a log message. So this is a log message from my side project. It says, integrity constraint violation, column action cannot be null. And that was it. I don't know what the person was doing. I don't know why they did it. I know maybe what table that is. But that's all I got. So there's not a lot of context. And so a lot of people will start using structured logging like Graylog or Gelf and try to put more context into logging, build up more context, and you still won't really know everything that the user did. You maybe will know, like you'll be able to capture what file and what line this happened on, and then you can figure out like, okay, I'm in the bowels of the models. Great. Which endpoint is using this model? And then you have to do grep, search back through the code. You're like, wouldn't it be nice if you could just get a stack trace? And you're like, I'll put stack traces in my log. I'm a genius. And so you put the stack traces in your logs. And then syslog's like, whoa, cool your jets. Like, my max packet size is 1024. I'm just going to cut everything off. Put too much stuff in the logs, chopped off at the knees. So then you're back to not having a stack trace. So give the bottom half of the stack trace, and the whole thing. And then all the extra content you put in the logs is all gone too. So that pretty much sucks. And you still don't know like why. Why did this happen and how did this happen? So like, how can you get more context? And so that's where error tracking allows you, like steps in and allows you to capture more context. So any error tracking solution, there's lots of providers. They allow you to record more information about what your customer is doing or what your users are doing. And then when they hit an error, it allows you to forward that to the error tracking solution. And then you can get more context out of that. So you can get stack traces, you can get local variable context, you can get, some people do stuff where they capture the whole Redux application state. I've seen people dumping like entire Elm application states into the error tracking solution. So when the app crashes, they can rip out the whole Elm state, drop it in their local machine, be like, oh, that's why it broke. And so you can capture way more context than you could ever possibly stick in a log file. The other thing that error tracking lets you do is lets you track errors on the server, lets you track errors on the client. If you have mobile clients, you can hook into those, and then it all goes into one place. And you can divvy up the errors amongst your team. You can set up alerting rules. It's no longer like, did you read the logs today? Or like dump them into Slack. Because everyone knows that as soon as you have logs, no one reads them until something's broken. And then the thing that tells you to look at the logs is a customer or an angry Twitter message is like, your site is down. You're like, oh yeah, it is. What did the log say? Oh, yeah, it's broken. Wouldn't it be nice if you could find it before they emailed, or like maybe they tweeted you and you get the alert at the same time? That'd be pretty cool. And so you can get stack traces, local variables, you can get request data, you can get which users are affected, you can annotate most error solutions with the affected users so you can know who was affected by this problem. So then if you want to go back and email them afterwards and be like, hey, sorry, I ruined your day, you can buy your widgets now, it's all good, I fixed it, I'm sorry. You can do that kind of stuff. You can also track what most solutions call breadcrumbs, which are actions kind of leading up to the thing that failed. So you can passively record these breadcrumbs in every like request or every session, and then when an error happens, you can send the whole stack of them over to the error tracking solution. And what those will often give you is like in a JetScript application or a client-side solution, you can track where they were clicking. You can track on which page views they went through, which routes they transitioned through. On a server application, you could record all the SQL queries that were emitted in the request. You could record all of the log messages that were recorded in that request. Like all the deprecation warnings, you could pipe all of those into the error solution and be able to look at them all. So maybe you get a little bit more context. The whole basic idea of error tracking software is to give you more context, so you can go from like, I have no idea why this is broken, I guess I'll try it on my machine, to, oh, I screwed up. A lot faster. It's always humans breaking stuff. So there's three big providers. There's Bugsnag, and Rollbar, and Sentry. They're all great. I'm going to do a demo with Sentry because I work there and I have access to their source code, and so do you. And basically what I mean by you have access to the source code is you can literally just clone the repo and run it. And yeah, so all of our source code is, not all of it, but like 90% of it is open source. The pieces that aren't open source are the pieces that we use to charge people for subscriptions, which doesn't need to be open source because you're not going to charge yourself money because that'd be stupid. And then like the pieces that tell you to like contact support, because you don't get to contact the paid support when you're not paying. You can file an issue on GitHub and then we'll look at it later. So yeah, so this is Sentry. So basically I've logged in as a member. That's not going to work. We'll see the logout page too. And if I can remember how to log in. Password's wrong password. Nope. Maybe it's just happening. If not, we'll go in the database. To the database. I don't remember the users. So just like you, I don't know how to use SQL. I don't know how to do anything. It's adminexample.org, of course. Good old .org. Oh, there it is. That's my email address if you want to email me at work. I might get to you eventually. So yeah, there's the concept of organizations which allow you to like cluster projects together. Projects basically are applications, and then applications you can ship errors to them. So I have this one that I use for development called WoogerWorks, where I've sent a whole bunch of errors to. I'll show the app that those came from. We'll actually do some errors right now. So there's some errors kicking around in here. And then I built a shitty Laravel application. I've never written a Laravel app before, so I wrote a bad one. Because that's what you do when you don't know what you're doing, is you build a shitty one. I also built a shitty React app. I know a little bit of React. I know enough to be dangerous. So I built crappy applications with both of them. And we're going to make some, see if we get an email.
But that's intended, right?
That it's broken?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
totally. totally up to it.
It's a feature.
Yeah, it's a
To me,
feature.
this looks like a page that has a lot of helpful information to help me debug already.
Yeah, we wouldn't get this in production, right?
Yeah.
One would hope. One would hope you wouldn't get that in production.
Unless you're tracking a problem.
Yeah. Noob. Yeah, so that was an old error. So what Sentry will also do, and what other error solutions will do, is they'll aggregate events together. So if you have that error and maybe people are slamming that page, you may be getting like 10 or 100 or 1,000 requests per second to that page. You don't want an email every time someone hits that error. That would be super annoying because your email box would just explode. So what we do is we look through the stack traces and we can group errors together into what are called issues or groups if you're looking in the database. And so you can aggregate them together and then you can look for things that kind of smell the same. So we have an undefined variable, and so we'll just look for undefined variable up here. Let's look for all undefined variables. Oh, there's one. And so we just go here and we can get like, oh, the person was using Firefox 65. They're using PHP 7.2, they're running a Mac. What happened? We can look at the stack trace. We can see the code snippet that it came from. We can see all the local variables when the app crapped out. We can see what file and line it was on. We get that for basically every layer of the stack trace. We can get context. And we get parameters to all the functions. So if you're ever wondering, like, I wonder what the parameters were for those functions, it's right there, which is pretty cool. And then you can get all the error reporting and then an exception. You get the person's cookies. If you need that to reproduce an error, that's all captured automatically. And so you can get all their cookies, you can get their session, you can just turn into them. Maybe you want to filter this out, it's probably a bad idea.
Get their social insurance number.
Yeah, yeah. So there is, that can happen. By default, the application will scrub out things that look like secrets. But you can also configure on the collecting side, like if you're doing a client-side application, you can configure fields that should be crossed out or stripped out. And there's a product that's being worked on, or is like, I can talk about it because it's an open source project, that you can run inside of your infrastructure called Relay, and you can pipe all of your errors into this application called Relay, and then you can run like personal information scrubbers inside Relay, and then forward, once it's gone through the scrubber, then it can forward out to Sentry or to your Sentry or to wherever you want. So say you're working on a HIPAA compliant or like working with medical records and you don't want any of that stuff to come in, you can forward it to this Relay proxy. The Relay proxy will strip everything out and then forward it to your in-house Sentry installation.
Sorry to interrupt.
No.
Is it okay to ask
Yeah,
questions?
of course.
Is it?
I'm basically ad-libbing now. So.
Okay. Is that, did Sentry, like when Sentry scrubs out those sorts of things?
Yep.
Is that almost Sentry like protecting themselves? Because they might not want that stuff on their servers?
Yeah. Partly, it's also partly so our customers can comply with like GDPR and a bunch of the other like compliance requirements in the US and in Europe. And the Relay piece is completely for our customers to be able to be compliant for their own compliance. And so I have one more slide that I'm going to use as notes. Yeah, so that's a PHP stack trace. We can also generate errors from so you can get those from all over the place. We can get an ORM error, so we'll make one of those, or give a new one. Yeah, but just before this, we ran a SQL query, which will be interesting. So it was article view not found. Let's go find that one. So I just like completely cocked up everything in this application, which is helpful. But so we can actually see that there was a select query, and we can get all the parameters that were bound. So we can know like a little bit about how this person got to this scenario a lot more easily than you would from a log message. And I'll show you the code for this application and like what was involved in setting it up to get all of this information out of it, just so you can kind of understand like how much work this is. We can suck up logs. So yeah, I just threw an exception, but I didn't actually define the class. Who's ever done that? No,
Yep.
never done that.
I mean, you get an exception on the line you were expecting to get an exception on.
Yeah, it got there.
Yeah.
All the things happened. What was it?
All
the
bad
bad
things.
All bad. All bad. What? Exception. Yes. Division by 0. And it'll be in here somewhere. Oh, class exception not found. So there's our exception. Throw a new exception. And so we can get the log messages with the extra context, which is in that log, just right up here. So you can suck up all the logging context from Laravel. So as it's going through the request and capturing log files, all of those will end up in your trace context, which is pretty useful. And then, like I said earlier, it groups events together. So we find one that has more than one. We can find multiple. One event. That's lies. We can go back and forth through history and look at each instance, which is pretty cool. And so you can see as the people are hitting it, you can go through and look at all of their information, all the different stack traces, get more information on how to reproduce it. So that's kind of neat. And then in JavaScript, I built this crappy React app, which we've all built. We need a console on this because it's got peaks in the console.
That's what I did.
Yeah, so there was an error. Did not catch that one. It happens on the third one. And so I
There it is.
Ah.
How many A's was that?
So JavaScript natively has terrible stack traces. So one of the other things that that Sentry can do, and all the other providers can do as well, is you can give them your source maps. So when you do a release or you do a deployment, you ship your source maps to us. And then what we'll do is we'll demangle your source code, so you can actually look at the proper source code. that you wrote versus the like crazy crap that Webpack spat out. Yeah, like, oh, this is great. I know.
L.
Double underscore require. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Control Shift F L.
Yeah. Oh, line 37,853. Nailed it. Know exactly what that is. I have not uploaded source maps right now. I can show you one from like something that we have at work. This is not going to be helpful to any of you because it's just, but I can show you the source maps pieces in work. So these are errors from Sentry in production. We use Sentry to find our own errors. So we have a special, like one of the configurations of Sentry is that it tracks its own errors. And so we use it to track its own errors.
What if it throws an error while tracking the error? And
Well, there's a special whitelist for the collector not puking itself into a death spiral. So yeah.
Had one server explode and that was enough.
Yeah, so there's, yeah. So that's the stack trace that's kind of happening. Yeah.
Can I ask 2 questions?
Sure.
Question the first. Is there like a PHP extension here, or is this all just regular PHP code?
This is all in user space PHP code.
Cool. I would have expected an extension of Magic.
Yeah, no, there's no C extensions. So we pop over to the shitty app that I built. This is it right here.
You wrote Vim?
You know, there's only one editor in the world.
That didn't look like Nano.
No, it's just, yeah, so there's actually a Laravel binding.
Okay.
There's like hooks into Laravel. There's one for Symfony, there's one for a bunch of other frameworks. And so, yeah, there's a bunch of them. And so you can use that, and what it'll pull in is it'll pull in the PHP SDK, and then also provide some like framework-specific bindings. And so the Laravel one specifically will like hook into the boot cycle, and then like jam itself into the logger, jam itself into the event dispatcher, jam itself into the ORM. Like it'll like hook itself into parasitically to
I was gonna say something like that.
collect information, and it'll also like hook itself into the error renderer and like take over that. Not take over it, but like listen in. What's going on? It's on the party line. And then basically the other thing you'll have to do is set up like some environment variables. So there's these. There's one DSN for the PHP SDK, and there's another one for the public JavaScript one. The public JavaScript one is a different key because the Sentry's in the middle of moving all of its SDKs over to a new format, and the PHP one hasn't moved yet. They're working on it like right now. Not right now because they're sleeping, but like right now. I didn't have to change the error handler in here. Oh no, I did. There's this should report, so we just basically dump errors into Sentry when we find them. And then the other thing we had to do was part of the bootstrap. Wasn't bootstrap really config. I had to pull in those environment variables into this. And we'll talk about releases in a little bit. And because that goes into like how you fix things. And then on the JavaScript side, so resources assets. And then I had to do like an import from Babel, do the CS6 import, and then boot up the SDK, and then that was the end of that. And then for the how that variable got onto the JavaScript, I just kind of like dumped it out here, complete ghetto style. Yeah, did it the easiest way possible. Yeah, so that's about what it takes to hook into the JavaScript side. And then it'll start collecting errors for like a React app or a Vue app. There are like client-side framework-specific error handlers as well. For like in React, you can use your error boundaries and trap things, so your error boundaries can report errors. Yeah, so that's basically all there is to hooking it in. Yeah, and then you can start collecting errors. And then I guess one of the other things that you can do that makes an error tracking solution more useful is give it more information. And so like an error is made, how would you go about fixing this? You could push this resolve button once it's been fixed, but it would be really cool if it could like hook into your version control system. And so again, all of the providers have this kind of stuff. Sentry specifically has integrations with like GitHub, GitLab, and Bitbucket. And so you can pipe all of your commits into it, and we'll will suck up all your commits, and then what that'll also let us do is when we get an error, we can look at the stack trace of the error and look at the files that have changed and tell you maybe which commits broke. If your commits are small enough, we can go through like which files have changed since the previous release and the new release, and say this error, the stack trace has these 3 files in it, and those 3 files were changed in these 3 versions. Most recently by these 4 commits. It's probably these 4 commits that broke this. It doesn't always work, but if you're frequently changing code, it can be pretty good. It might give you like a lie, but sometimes it'll give you good stuff.
Is there a blame in there too? Like,
It'll link you to the commit.
Right to Slack?
It'll link you to the commit.
A running tally of how many times they've been blank.
Where their office is located.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's gonna,
This is your 87th error.
I can see if I can find one of those inside.
Your
our-
resume has been updated.
so I can look at the desk.
I have another question. That
Sure.
I'm trying to put it together in my head, but I'm thinking of like server-side, like JavaScript frameworks, like Next or Nuxt.
Yep.
And then so like they all run on the server, but they
Mhm.
also deliver content to the browser that also
Mhm.
runs JavaScript. And like I thought like you were doing window.tsn, and like maybe window doesn't exist on the back end of the server, but it does on the front end. Is there any like
Server-side rendering? type
something about that? Yeah, I guess.
So there are SDKs for Node as well, so you could hook it into the Node application and then collect errors out of Node as well. So if you're doing server-side rendering, you wouldn't have window, but you would be able to suck up the errors out of the Node application.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is the suspect commit. It says David probably broke this. He didn't, but it's the most recent commit that showed up for it. This is just an SSL error with an integration, like we're talking to an IRC server, and it's broken. Some of our customers. Yeah, and you also get like these time series data, which will tell you like how frequently this error happens in the last 24 hours, in the last 30. It'll also give you releases. Yeah, so we can go and look at a release. And so as you're feeding Sentry like your commit data, that allows to power that suspect commits thing. It'll also give you emails when you do a release. And so actually if you get an email for a new issue, it'll say like, you probably broke this. Or it'll say like, Colin broke this. And so you can also, when you do a deploy, you can also push some deployment metadata. There's a CLI tool. And you can push with the CLI tool, you can push which commits are in which releases to your error tracking software, and then it will also know when commits have gotten fixed, when issues have been fixed. So you can do like fixes and then the issue number in the commit message, and then it will, like you could do fixes WoogerWorks X in a commit message, and then when you do a release, because we have your commit data and we can say, oh, this commit got released to production, we can just automatically resolve all those issues. And then if the issue comes back and pops up again in the future, we can say, oh, there's been a regression, send you an alert because you broke it again. So there's those kinds of more powerful things that come out of that you wouldn't get out of like just logging or just New Relic. Like there's a little bit more that you can get out of a kind of a solution like this. It'll also like give you some commit information about like what's happened. It'll allow you to track like which issues have been new and which ones have been fixed. And let you like, you can also, if you're working with native clients, you can upload the CFI, the call stack unwinder from Apple, and the ProGuard file for Android. So you can upload those, and we'll use those to demangle source code as well. So if you're working in native things where you can't get call stacks, you can upload those artifacts and we process them and turn them into stuff that we can actually use, and then use those to unwind stacks and unwind and like demangle source code for Java and iOS as well.
Those crossed out errors, are those just ones that have been resolved?
Yeah, these are fixed ones. Yeah.
I have a hard question, maybe.
Sure.
It's like sometimes I get an error and it's because there was a deadlock in the database.
Yep.
And so knowing that I had a deadlock in the database is helpful. Knowing what else was going on that may have succeeded around that time would be much more helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Can Sentry or other tools like Sentry help with that?
So what you would be able to get is you would get the error, you get the stack trace, and you would get the queries that succeeded before it. but you wouldn't get the
But
other
only from like
sides
that
of
web thread, right?
Yeah.
So like if 10 other users were doing things, I would not see what they were doing at all?
No, unless they
okay.
also all deadlocked at the same time, and then they might show up as the same error.
Okay.
And you see like 10 people got hit by a deadlock, but like maybe it's 2. Yeah.
Okay.
There's not a lot you can do with that. Deadlocks suck.
Just don't do it.
Are you deadlocking your database?
Oh,
Stop it.
we've been doing it wrong the whole time. We're just not supposed to deadlock. Oh.
I think so when Rasmus started at Etsy, the first thing he did was went in and removed all of the constraints out of the database.
Deadlock's fixed.
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Can't have no errors if your whole code's the error.
Constraints just slow you down.
So the running test.
Yeah, so one of the other things you can do once you set up integrations, like the integrations are for the source control, and then you can also do integrations with your bug trackers. So a lot of teams will have processes that require like tickets that must be in Jira. Like I've worked at places that have that. We have that at Sentry. And so you can link an issue in Sentry to Jira, and then you can have Sentry handle like the bi-directional, like you close the issue in Jira, close the issue in Sentry. That would be nice. That's actually how it works. And then you can do that with Azure DevOps and like a bunch of, I have them all installed because I work on integrations. Yeah, so yeah, you can have them kind of fixed back. The other thing that I didn't really talk about is tags. So issues when they're tracked will get broken down by tag. So we might be able to see that in this error as well. Go back and just pick one of these SSL errors. You can add tags, like arbitrary tags of your choosing, to your issues, and then you can kind of link them back to what happened. And so you can find out like which projects, like which users it happened to. You can find out what releases they were on. You can figure out like if you're deploying to multiple servers, like is Web 04 the bad server? Like maybe just that one web server is skunky. And you could look in the error and say like, oh, that one web server is really kind of skunky. Like this is an equal distribution of skunks, so no one's to blame. But you can kind of come up with the tags that would help you understand like the context around your application, and you can just add those in as you need. Maybe as your application progresses, you can learn more about the customer and like tag them with more information. So yeah, there's kind of a lot more. You can add a lot more depth, and then you can also do a lot more with search. So one of the things that we're working on building right now is a much better search experience. So that's like searching by tags. Like these tags, you can search by them. So you could look for all the errors by people from Chrome, or like all the errors that are coming from Internet Explorer, or like all the errors that happened after you upgraded a specific version of your framework, or upgraded it. Maybe you put in a library version that's causing a lot of errors, and you want to slice on that. So yeah, you're allowed to like kind of freeform build all of this. Yeah.
I have another question. So, like, if you're working on a team,
Yep.
and like you're triaging these things that come in, and then so like you can say you're going to work on this, you work on that.
Yeah. Yeah. There's another question over here that didn't get asked.
Oh, I was just going to ask, what sort of programmatic control do I have over what Sentry's doing? So if I want to say, catch this particular kind of exception and give it a particular tag, can I do that in like my PHP code and say, listen, I want, before you go off to Sentry, I want to tag this issue with, this tag so that I can reference it later because I know it's coming from that controller or something like that.
Yep. Yeah. So you can do that in that error handler just before, like, it doesn't really capture anything on its own.
Yeah.
Just before you like pass it off, you could grab Sentry and like add a bunch of tags based on the type, or like discard it if you don't want it to go to Sentry.
Okay.
We do that like in Sentry ourselves. We have a lot of ours is based on Python logging, and so we like blacklist entire sub logging trees. Just like we don't want any errors from those logging trees because they log at error because they're insane, and they're not actually errors. It's just like I couldn't hit a cache. It's like I don't care. Like you don't get to talk anymore. Silence.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can definitely like control what errors you go for, and it'll be like completely transparent on the SaaS product. We charge by the amount of error you send us, so it's in your best interest to like only alert yourself on what you are interested in, and not like send yourself a fire hose of garbage. Makes your life better, makes like your bill a lot cheaper. Completely transparent there. The other thing, so you asked about like you work on this piece, I work on this piece.
Yeah.
If I can, I'm trying to navigate watching the big screen, and that does not work. I would not recommend that. If I can figure out how to navigate, we can go to the settings, and we can go to issue owners. And so what issue owners let you do is map paths, to specific people.
Oh,
And so
okay.
it'll automatically assign those people. And when you get assigned an issue, it'll send you an email based on email preferences, or send you an email based on email preferences. So you can automatically assign people to those tasks. And then if you're in Sentry, you can like go here and look at issues assigned to me. There's a bunch that are assigned to me. This includes all of the teams. You can also like group people into teams, and then assign teams to be specific to specific projects. So you can slice up your infrastructure into different projects, and then slice up your company into teams, and then assign those teams. And then if you're inside of a big monolithic code base and you have specific subsystems that are handled by people, you can use the issue owners to redirect to specific teams based on paths.
Wow.
And you mentioned this integrated with like Jira.
Yep.
Could it like push this issue to Jira assigned to Mark?
Not automatically. It won't automatically create issues. No.
Okay.
Not yet.
Okay.
One day. No support until you want it. Well, probably never do that. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. I'm trying to think. You can also like save searches if there's specific searches you're looking for, and you can control alerts. So one of the other things that there are integrations. If you're running it yourself, you can build your own integrations. Do whatever the hell you want. And so you can actually pipe alerts based on your own settings, and then you can also pump them out into Slack, which is probably one of the most frequently used integrations. You can have Sentry show up in Slack and yell at you, and then you can also do some basic assignment and triage inside of Slack. So you can assign people or teams inside Slack. You can have a text message you every single time. Sounds horrible. Yeah, you can feed it into other tools that you're working with, and on like what frequency and all that kind of stuff. So it gives you a lot of control over what you do. And again, if you run it yourself, you can just Python code. You can just write whatever you want and just jam it in there. There is a plugin system for notifiers, and so you can install your own plugins. Yeah, and all of the code I've shown you today is part of the open source piece. So if you were to self-host it, it's all there. It's a little bit of pain in the butt to get running. It needs Postgres, RabbitMQ, and Python. But there is a Docker image that will kind of blur it all out. Well, there's Redis as well. So there is a Docker-based install that we recommend people to do if they're going to self-host. Yeah, don't switch the database up to MySQL. We don't run it in MySQL. Just use Postgres and pretend it's a black box until you can't. Yeah, it's RabbitMQ, Redis, Postgres, and Python. And Python too, so you don't even need fancy Python. It's good or bad depending on how you feel about Python.
For notifiers.
Yep.
Is there just like a simple like webhook? Just like literally hit this URL and you get an error?
Yeah. That's literally.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah, it's true.
Fantastic.
It's gonna just blast the bejesus out of this. Whatever you wanted to point the fire hose.
So even if you ran off the commercial one,
Yep.
you could still technically write your own
Yeah, you can
integration just by hitting the webhook.
Yeah, you can blast
Cool.
some piece. And there's, I can say this because it's in the open source piece. There's a work being done on like an app platform where you can build like integrations, kind of like a GitHub app, and then you can get more specific webhooks. So the webhooks we have right now for this webhook endpoint are every time there's an event, which is basically every time there's an error. The new like integration system, the new third-party integration system will let you do it based on issues being created. So like new novel types of errors or new regressions being opened.
Okay.
Versus like just getting a big fire hose blasting you.
Just like this webhook right now, for example, if you get 1,000 errors of the same error, you'll trigger
it's just
1,000
gonna-
times?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's gonna blast you pretty hard. It'll do what it says on the tin. Every new event. Yeah. That's pretty much the whole spiel. You want to run too long.
So what I'm looking at for my team is, if I pay you money, we will find our, well, if I pay Sentry money,
Yep.
or I pay my senior engineer a lot of money to try to set up Sentry and just lose way more money that way. We find our errors faster, we find the errors we didn't know we were having.
Yep.
And we can fix them faster because we actually have information rather than rough hunches and, I don't know, divining rods.
Yeah. Let's thoughts and prayers.
Yeah.
More hard facts.
That finding the ones you didn't know you had, that's the real gotcha that Sentry helps fix. That's
Yeah.
my experience with it.
Yeah.
As soon as we hooked it up, a previous job I had, it was, oh my God, our application's actually horrible. Getting 1,000 exceptions every minute.
Yeah, so for PHP, it'll actually also pick up all your triggered warnings, which you may have turned off. It'll catch them all and then send them to you. So all your like divide by zeros, it'll just grab them all and hold on to them and give you stack traces for them, which is kind of nice. Yeah, and I'll again very like transparently, like there's no QA at Sentry. The QA we have is we ship it and then we watch Sentry for the bugs. Really how we work on the software.
Who were your competitors again?
We have like a pretty good confidence that we're not going to burn and salt the earth, but like there's a few pieces of Sentry that you can't shoot from the hip as quick, but like the rest of it you can, because you can find the bug and fix it within like faster than your CI can catch it.
Wow.
Faster than our CI can catch it. Our CI runs on Travis, and that's a thing.
You mentioned that you are able to debug a React application.
Yes.
Can you do Angular?
Yep. Yeah, so there's, you can do Angular. Again, with any JavaScript, the key thing is going to be uploading source maps. Without source maps, you're going to be looking at that mangled pile of garbage. Like your stack traces aren't going to make sense. None of your local variables are going to make sense. Because you're just going to basically get what Webpack gave you, which is optimized for Webpack, not for you. So key piece with any JavaScript or with any native application is to upload source maps or debug symbols.
Pardon my ignorance. How
Yeah, no.
you get the source map?
So you can tell Webpack, when you run Webpack, you can tell it to output the source and output a source map. And then a source map is basically just a JavaScript file filled with like a whole crazy amount of comments. And it'll have like a whole bunch of comments about which lines map to which other lines. And so it maps from the file that Webpack made to the file that you're going to serve, that you wrote, and all the files you wrote.
And how do I get those source maps to Sentry?
So there's an API that you can upload them with. There's also a tool called Sentry CLI.
You just like trigger it to do it after you do a Webpack build every time. It just
Yeah, so when as part of your deploy process would be something like deploy to the server, and then deploy artifacts to deploy the source maps to Sentry.
What's the probability that the browser code will crash before the Sentry code?
Yeah, you could upload the source maps first if you.
No, but like that means if something else breaks, crashes
Yep.
before the Sentry thing does, that function will never get triggered, so it will never get uploaded. So what's the probability of that?
Yeah, so on the JavaScript side, we also hook into window.onError, which is
Okay.
the last and final place that an error could go if it blows the whole stack all the way through and ends up somewhere in the window function limit. If you get to window.onError, there's not a lot that you can do. Like IE has pretty rough stack trace support, and most browsers have pretty rough stack trace support on window.error. So if you like blow through all of your guards along the way, there is window.onError. And you're still going to miss stuff because people are going to have like Pi-hole blocks Sentry because they think it's tracking. They're not entirely wrong, but we're not doing like panopticon type tracking. Like we can't correlate users across our customers. Like you can't do it. So it's not really tracking, but Pi-hole thinks it is tracking software. Like Privacy Badger again will also block Sentry because it'll show up. Like if they're using the CDN loader, it'll show up on 3 sites, and then Privacy Badger is like, nope, you can't play anymore. So you'll still miss some client-side errors, but you'll get more than what you had before.
If you have like the microservice architecture,
Yep.
right? And then so the request comes in and it gets pieced out to all those services and whatnot. Is there like correlation IDs or something like that, that you can track the requests through?
Yeah, you have to put those in. Yeah, so if you're doing like a microservices thing, you'd have to put your correlation IDs in as like a tag, or some sort of extra breadcrumb into Sentry or into Snag or whatever. So you can actually track data across.
But, so if it's been a long time, but the service that has the error, like it wouldn't have, you'd have to look at your logs of the correlation IDs up until the service that had the error, and then that would get sent up to Sentry.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Only the application that emitted the error would dump its stack trace. Like you wouldn't get stack traces across all the applications.
Assuming you're handling the errors across the applications, you
Yeah.
don't just have exception throws, exception throws.
If you had blows, like, yeah, if you had back pressure that blew up all the way across the whole thing, then...
Well, the question. So when you had the SQL log demo part,
Yeah.
is it only capable of hooking into the framework that uses the ORM, or can it intercept absolutely any MySQL call at all, ever?
No, because it doesn't run as a C extension, it runs
Okay.
in userland code, you have to hook into it. Yeah, that is one of the drawbacks of it being a userland extension so far, is like, in contrast to the way like New Relic works into it, where they like just dig into the PHP runtime at a C level. Yeah, we don't. Sentry doesn't do that. But it means you can run it on like remote cookie, or like run it in shared hosting, where you can't just drop your own C extension in place.
If you're in shared hosting, do you really care about your errors?
I'm not going to judge.
Be interested to see metrics on how many people on GoDaddy
Is
install
there a
Sentry.
WordPress plugin for Sentry?
Probably. I don't know.
Do you use it on AWS Lambda or something like
It would be part of
Because
the, you'd have to roll it into the code that
that?
you
Just,
deploy.
and it just functions normally, I guess.
Yeah, it's just a JavaScript
You have
library.
to set up your
Yeah. So that
allow an
things,
exit too.
so things can get out. You could run your own Sentry, and then it just has to get to inside the VPC. That's another like use case for Relay. Is like you can run it inside a VPC and then have it as like a waypoint to get out.
That means you can trace errors in any technology like ASP.NET or blockchain Solidity. Can you do that?
I don't know about blockchain Solidity. ASP.NET, yeah. There are like clients. I think it's like 13 or 20 somewhere in there. This many. Some of these are these are all Python ones. But yeah, there's Cordova. There's one for Go. There is one for ASP.NET, and like the whole CLR. The CLR and the JVM integrations do get a lot more resolution, because the CLR and the JVM allow you to like hook into the actual runtime a lot more. So I know the CLR extension, like they're looking into ways to like get a lot more context out of the CLR. You can get a lot more out of like the JVM as well.
That means you support also TypeScript.
Yeah, because TypeScript just turns into JavaScript.
It's not there. Oh, because it's...
Because it's part of
Yeah.
it's part of the Node and browser.
Oh, it's...
The browser one. So the Sentry JavaScript library is actually written in TypeScript.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it'll work with TypeScript as well. Yeah. Yeah. So I guess going back to that source maps question, there's the Sentry CLI tool will allow you to upload like source maps. So instead of having to do API calls from your build script, you can download this Rust application, and then you can, like the CLI tool, and then you can just pump up source maps before you deploy or after you deploy, however it suits you. Yeah.
If I'm doing like blue-green deployments, will Sentry be confused by the fact that I have one source map running concurrently with another?
No, because you'll have to tie them to releases.
Okay.
So like when you have to kind of think through that a little bit. So one of the other tools controls that Sentry and those solutions give you is they give you the idea of environments. And so you could have like a blue and green environment, and you can filter issues by blue and green environments. So you can see like what's going on in staging versus what's going on in production, or what's going on in blue servers and the green servers. And then you can, like the source maps can attach to a specific release.
Okay.
So the thinking, or the rationale is like, when you do a deploy, like say you deploy a specific git SHA, the source map's not going to change for that git SHA. It'll hopefully be the same. And so you can deploy that git SHA to different environments or different deployments,
Okay.
but the contents of it shouldn't change.
Cool. On the previous page, there's like a link to PHP.
Yeah.
Can you show us like which things you can send your tendrils into, like Laravel, Cake?
So a lot of them are community-based. Yeah, so there's definitely one for Laravel, as I've demonstrated. Sentry only maintains the like basic PHP one,
Okay.
and then there's some very nice people in the community who have built like better integrations for Symfony, and there's one for Laravel. I'm pretty sure there's one for Cake. We could Google it.
I figured you would have written the Cake one.
I didn't. I don't know. Yeah, we're just gonna. Yeah, that looks right.
Fancy.
I think there's probably. Let's see if there's one for Slim.
Is that one for
Slim, that's an RFID tag. That is not what we want. Let's see if there's one for Zen Framework. There it is.
Because the way they've done that now, you don't actually need plugins anymore. It's completely middleware. So you just drop it in and it doesn't have to be done specifically.
Yeah, there's one for Zen Framework 3. I don't think there's one for
PSR.
Hey, there's one for Zen Express. There you go. This is all
So-
stuff we didn't write.
Open source, amazing, right?
Yeah, open source.
Would it be possible to write a database error reporter, like for Postgres, monitor bad queries coming in? Or is that something totally like out there?
You could, yeah. I don't know. I don't know enough about how like Postgres is implemented. If you can like capture an error and then turn it into a network request, then you can send it to Sentry or to Bugsnag or whatever.
Because SQL Server does that, and it's like sometimes the only way to monitor applications when people haven't been diligent going to a single point of database entry.
Yeah.
You just have to sometimes pop up the database monitor and just see what the heck is being sent to it.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I've not written any C code ever, so just a web developer. Yeah, so I guess some of the gaps that you would get out of if you were to use like error tracking, there's still a bunch of monitoring solutions, like a bunch of monitoring surface area that you're missing. So one is like host monitoring, like Sentry and other error tracking tools are focused very much on the application errors, and they're not focused on like uptime or availability or like network partition. Well, network partitions may turn into like errors in your application, but they won't like monitor like database server health or like, is your host actually up or is it down? Can your like things all talk to each other? So you would still need like other monitoring tools to cover those areas as well, or not.
Yeah, just
Thoughts and prayers.
yeah.
Sending good vibes.
Sending good vibes out into the internet. Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Does anybody else have any other questions?
Regarding exceptions, so it can capture the exception hierarchy, how they are fired.
Yeah, that's the stack trace.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I got it. How easy is it to set up?
The SaaS one's easy. You just sign up and start using it. The self-hosted one is a bit of a pain in the butt. You have to have Docker. So the on-premise solution requires you to have Docker. We also document like running it on Python by itself. I would not recommend that. There are oodles and caboodles of GitHub issues about people not being able to set it up because it's a pain in the butt. You're better off to just download the Docker containers and boot it out of a Docker. It comes with a Docker Compose setup, so you could push it into Docker Swarm or use one of the magic tools that turn that into Kubernetes definitions or Mesos or whatever you want to run a whole bunch of Docker containers. And so yeah, I would, if you're going to run it yourself, I would recommend using the Docker approach.
That's free, yeah?
That's all free, yeah. It's just Docker images.
But you're saying if I get it from GitHub, there are lots of issues, for me to set it up, yeah, myself.
Yeah, so if you install it with just Python, you'll have to set up Postgres, Redis, and RabbitMQ, and then get them all to talk to each other, which is a little bit more work than setting it up through Docker, and like, because Docker will boot up the network and keep everything kind of contained together. Also, if you're going to run it in production, I'd recommend having like good machines to run Sentry on. It's not an easy, it's not a resource intensive, it's not a resource light application.
Sentry does have a free tier, does it?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
I think the free tier you don't get teams, am I right? Or it's like one user for an organization?
Yeah,
Something like that?
and your integrations kind of get kneecapped. A lot of the features in the integrations, like the two-way issue syncing for Jira, doesn't work in free. That's only in paid products. Or you can self-host and you get everything because you just go in and you're like, no, I'm turning all the features on. It's cool. I got this. Yeah. You can also have like longer data retention on self-host, SaaS. And it'll keep your data for 90 days.
Well, I mean, if you're not dealing with an error in 3 months.
You probably don't. You probably don't care. It probably should just go away.
Yeah, so it's doing you a service. Again.
I have been ignoring an error for 3 years, Mark. 3 years.
If it keeps happening, it'll stick around.
It's the same error.
Oh yeah, it'll
Every
stick.
time.
Then it'll stay in Sentry.
My boss is like, I'm not going to fix it until somebody calls it out. And I was like, okay, 3 years later, still there.
Still on fire.
No, it doesn't really
The
matter.
Springfield Tire.
It's more of a warning than an error.
More like a guideline.
Yeah.
How easy it is to configure? For example, if I'm not interested in exceptions, can I ignore them, or there are some levels of errors?
Yeah, you can choose just not to capture them. Yeah, my advice would be if you don't care about it, don't capture it. It's a lot easier to not capture than it is to like capture it and then be like, no, I don't actually care.
So it's in the configuration?
So it's in actually how you configure your application. So the application that is being, that's having errors collected, like if you don't care, you could just be like return.
The
Like-
level will have to don't report right at the top.
Oh yeah,
That'll just
yeah, you could do
pop
that.
it in there and you're done.
Yeah, that's that like end this should report line there.
Or don't. There we go, fixed. No errors.
Thanks.
Like,
You don't have any users too, though.
Yeah.
Users, no errors.
So it's a lot easier with all
Everything's-
pesky users
Like-
screwing it up.
In a production system, does it affect the performance?
Only when there's an error.
Which I guess affects performance anyways.
Yeah. So there is some, depending on how much data you add in as context before. So if you're tracking all of the SQL queries and you're tracking all of the breadcrumbs and you're tracking all the tags for everything, there is going to be some overhead in one, like getting that information and then storing it in memory. So you will see a hit on memory and you will see a hit on like a little bit of time. The time collection piece shouldn't be significant. It's just adding into like dictionaries and like arrays. The tracking piece will have time because there is a network request. Like right here, this shoots out a network request. So there is overhead there. There will be a latency. Yeah, but the page is already screwed, so everything's on fire. You might as well find out what happened.
And is it a flag that you can disable on production and have it there while testing or experimenting or something like that?
Yeah, again, that's up to you how you do it. Again, I don't know how to Laravel, but like if it's debug, I'm just gonna make stuff up right now.
The if environment.
We're just gonna call it debug. Oh yeah, environment. That's right. This one, right? env. Yeah, so you could do something like this. You could only get testing errors. I would probably do like if it's not debug, because I care more about the errors in production than I care about staging. If staging's on fire, like whatever. It's always like that. But like in production, that's probably where your money's coming from, or where your paychecks, the trickle down economics turn into your paychecks. So I think you would want to monitor that more than you'd want to monitor a staging environment. Yeah, that's just my opinion though.
All right. So thank you, Mark. Yeah. Thank you, I guess. maybe? Okay, you're right.
Completely so.
Thank you very much,
Thanks,
Mark, for coming and showing us about error tracking and monitoring and giving us the walkthrough of Sentry. That was great. We have more pizza if you guys want to stick around, chit chat, that's fine. We are now turning into the networking portion of the evening, so you can feel free to.
Get your crimpers out, make those cables.
Yeah, let's who's got games?
What about like the hold a brick game?
No, just like a-